Well, we come back home now, and the death toll from the Ormonde Building collapse in the south of Johannesburg has risen to 9. Johannesburg Emergency Services saying earlier the teams found and extracted the body of a third person from the rubble earlier today. 2 more bodies were retrieved in the morning. Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero went to the scene today and said preliminary investigations show that the developers did not have an approved municipal permit. He says that the developers are untraceable at this point and that law enforcement officers are looking for them. The 2-story building at a business park collapsed around midday on Monday. Morero was accompanied by the Deputy Mayor Loyiso Masuku, confirming 8 deaths with 1 person unaccounted for at the time. Preliminary findings have pointed to a poorly constructed slab of concrete as well as structural weaknesses as the cause. Municipal search and recovery teams are still doing some work at that site.
Meanwhile, Public Works and Infrastructure Minister Dean McPherson has called on the directors of property developer New Order Investments to avail themselves and take accountability following the collapse of the building in Ormonde. And as we've been saying, 9 workers are losing their lives after the 2-story building collapsed at that business park in Ormonde yesterday. And investigations revealing there that the property developer did not have a municipal permit to construct a structure next to Eskom Palace.
I want to call on the company that constructed this building, New Order INV, to come forward and to take accountability for what has gone on here, or if any member of the public knows where the owner of this company is, to immediately contact the SABC or local law enforcement. Preliminary observations and past reports have pointed to a troubling pattern of serious structural collapses within metro areas over the last decade. That pattern reinforces the need to examine whether systematic and governance weaknesses may be contributing to continued loss of life. This is not a matter that can be addressed by any single department or any sphere of government alone. It is an issue that will require cabinet-level consideration, informed by the outcomes of this investigation and those that are still continuing into George and the Durban temple collapse, to determine whether stronger coordination mechanisms, clearer lines of responsibility, or regulatory reform are required.
Well, to speak further about the Ormonde Building collapse that's claimed the lives of 9 construction workers, we're joined by Infrastructure Specialist Lufuno Ratsiku from Genetic Consulting. Good to have you on the SABC News channel this evening, sir. So I wonder if there are any glaring issues that you've picked up from the limited facts that we've got about the collapse in Ormonde, and where, in fact, an investigation should focus as it now begins to look at the cause of the collapse.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Let me start by just conveying my sincere condolences to the families that have lost their loved ones. Second to that, the investigations, of course, as you've indicated, are still going on. So our predictions and analysis are really based on what we have seen in the form of pictures and those that were present there communicating information to us. I think for me, there is a question that we need to ask, particularly when you consider the fact that this is a business park in a formal area. You would ordinarily expect this type of incidences to be happening, particularly when they are continuing in the informal areas that necessarily would not be bothered by the approval processes. That question 1 is, how long does it take for a municipality to approve building plans? And I'm mindful of the fact that there's no indication this time around whether they were submitted and they are being delayed, or they were just not submitted at all. But the reason why I'm bringing this is because from the analysis of all the incidents that even the minister mentioned, from George to Ferilam and this one, the common trend is that there are no building plans that are approved by the municipality. We shouldn't leave it there. We should ask our questions why. And I suspect that this must be an area that gets to be focused on as to why are buildings and structures that are formal of this nature not going through municipal approval
On that
processes.
point then, Lufuno, what we've been hearing is that there's no record of a permit or any approved plans. So in the absence of one or both of those things, if they're even separate at this stage, what is one allowed to do in a building project? Are you even allowed to lay down a foundation, begin to build?
So there are two things here. One is that there's no building that must happen without being commissioned by the municipality in the format of building plans being approved. So the answer is not allowed to construct a structure that is not approved by the municipality. The second thing is, as a consequence to that, when you miss the process or step of submitting the building plans, you then miss out on the deployment of municipalities for technical inspectors to come and assist you with the structure, which you can derive a benefit of risk being detected on time on your structure, because the municipality would have deployed building inspectors and structural engineers to assist with the construction process, so that every step of the way you are advised if you need to stop and fix something before you move to the next milestone or deliverable in the construction structure.
But in terms of that compliance then, you mentioned the inspectors. In reality, how common is it for those inspectors to turn up at a building site, pardon me, and do the sort of work that you're suggesting would need to happen throughout the process? Do we even have enough of them, considering that at any given time in this country there are thousands of structures being built either for commercial or residential purposes?
Yeah. So remember, they don't necessarily have to be visiting each structure every day. They check at what point will a particular milestone be achieved. For example, the completion of the slab. That would have been a step where a building inspector and a structural engineer would have gone to site and certify just that piece of work and give a go-ahead for continuity to the next piece of work to be done. So my answer is that yes, in areas like Joburg Metropolitan, they do have capacity to deploy building inspectors on various phases of the construction. And again, an emphasis being they don't have to be there every day, particularly if the processes that the company is using, they have a site supervisor, they have a safety officer, they have a construction manager on site. So the municipality doesn't have to be there every day, but they have to be there to approve critical steps that allow reduction of risk to continue to the next phase of the work.
Do we have a problem then, speaking more broadly, regarding under detection, if we can, of non-compliance in the process that we're discussing?
Yes, we do have that problem, but see, emphasis and the root cause of that problem is that if you miss a step, if you are building your house in a suburb area or wherever that the jurisdiction of the municipality reaches for approval, once you miss a submission of the plans, you sort of missed an invitation for them to come work along with you so that your project can be compliant.
What is the consequence for the sort of thing that is being alleged to have happened in Ormonde, where building is said to have taken place without the necessary permissions being given, and ultimately now we're told that even the developer responsible has gone AWOL?
So a few things happen here. Once a site experiences an incident of this nature, it's declared a crime scene immediately. And what then happens is that it activates and invites the presence of SAPS for investigation purposes, together with the Department of Labor. So the consequences then will be dictated by the result or the outcome, the findings of the completed investigation. Then various levels of crime, if it's found to be crime, will then be effected and be in place.
Good to talk to you, Lufuno Ratsiku, as always, infrastructure specialist, speaking to us about the Ormonde building collapse, where tragically 9 people, believed to be construction workers, have died.